Let's bring in right now Jeff Flake, the man that whose seat these interesting, I'll just say interesting candidates are trying to take. Senator, thanks for being with us. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you first. Give us your fondest thoughts about John McCain.
I don't know where to begin. I gave a speech on the Senate floor last night recounting some of them. But just traveling around campaigning across the state of Arizona, he was to campaign with. There was nobody more fun, nobody better. I never had an uninteresting town hall with John McCain. If it wasn't confrontational, he would make it so, just for fun. I'm going to miss it horribly. And I've just been so pleased to see the tributes around the country to this great man, and well-deserved.
Well, you know, I said earlier this morning, I quoted Ted Kennedy when he was remembering his brother Bobby in 1968 after Bobby's death, and he said there's no need to enlarge Bobby Kennedy beyond what he was in life or to deify him.
Right.
I mean, John McCain, he could be tough. He could be tough not only in town hall meetings, he could be tough also with colleagues, and he could be tough with members of the Arizona delegation. I mean, this guy fought everybody, and sometimes he had some pretty sharp elbows, didn't he?
He did. You know, I went 12 years in the House while he was in the Senate without having a real confrontation. I broke up a few fights between John and other members of the delegation sometimes. And I thought I was living large, and I got to the Senate, and the first vote I cast, he didn't think it was the right vote, and the truth is he was right, but he let me have it on the Senate floor, and about 10 of my colleagues were standing around just laughing their heads off, thinking that Jeff's now got his initiation. But the next day he put his arm around me, and we went on. And I can tell you, like I said last night on the floor, if you're looking for somebody to give you an inventory of John McCain's shortcomings, he would provide it. And that was what was so appealing about him, is he didn't pretend to be perfect, but he, as many have said, he perfectly loved his country and served it so well.
Senator, you just mentioned the tributes around the country that have flowed in since Senator McCain passed away. And this week, unfortunately, sadly for the country, we've been witness to a display of extraordinary pettiness on the part of Mr. Trump in not lowering the flag to half-staff. And I was struck by a couple of things. One have been your statements and the statements of several others in the United States Senate, your colleagues, about what's going on and what went on earlier in the week. But the thing that struck me the most was the absence of outrage articulated by many, if not most, of your Republican colleagues in the Senate. And I'm wondering, maybe I missed something, but I'm wondering why the reticence to attack, to go after, to outline such pettiness on the part of a man who is supposed to unite the nation in our grief, and just minimal human decency.
Well, I do think it's unfortunate how this unfolded, but we're in the right place now, and I think the reticence that my colleagues have had, I think, is well placed. They don't want to turn this into a fight, just looking for the good, assuming the best, and moving ahead. I'm glad we're in the right place now in terms of the president's proclamation, and let's leave it at that.
Senator Noah Rothman with Commentary Magazine. Moving on to the crass and political, unfortunately, for a minute. We have a vacant seat in Arizona. The governor is going to appoint someone to fill that seat. What characters, what traits, what characteristics, what views would you like to see in that replacement? And also, do you think that should be a placeholder, allowing the voters to make the decision in 2020, or should the governor use this opportunity to create a new political star in Arizona?
Well, I'm a fan of the governor. I think that he has the right things in mind. I will leave that decision completely to him. Obviously, this seat has been held by Barry Goldwater and then John McCain. It would be wonderful to have somebody that has independence and that realizes the importance of the Senate as an institution. But I think the governor certainly has that in mind, and we'll leave it up to him.
So, Senator, any concerns about the possibility of Kelly Ward or Joe Arpaio replacing you in the United States Senate?
Well, there is a concern with such a late primary in Arizona. It's you know, you run to the right, particularly in a year like this, and then have to recover for a primary, a general election where early voting is just a few weeks away. So it's a difficult straddle politically, and this year I think it's even worse. I'm, as you all know, I'm very concerned about the direction of the party. I don't think that we're putting our best foot forward, and we may win an election here or there, but in the end, you know, the party will go the way of the Whigs. I think if we continue to drill down on the base and not try to appeal to a broader electorate. So I'm very concerned, and I certainly think if a Joe Arpaio, for example, were to be nominated today, we'd face real trouble.
So let's talk about what the president did yesterday, talking about an elegant deal with Mexico, actually an elegant title for a deal with Mexico, according to him, when, in fact, there doesn't appear to be the outlines of a deal, certainly not to replace NAFTA. The Canadians haven't even been brought in. What are your concerns with the president blowing up NAFTA?
Well, the big concerns there. You know, NAFTA did need to be modernized. We did a lot of that in the Trans-Pacific Partnership negotiations, so it could have been done there. I'm very concerned that this will not be nearly as robust as NAFTA is now, this new agreement, if we can ever get there. Certainly we need to include Canada as well. That's been the genius of this deal and why it's led to such prosperity from all three countries. So I'm anxious to see more of the details and see where we end up. But I can tell you in Arizona there is great concern that we don't move ahead with a free trade agreement with Mexico. We depend mightily on trans-border trade, and it's been good for Arizona. It's been very, very good for Mexico as well. And part of the reason we don't have the pressures on the border that we've had in prior years is because the economy has improved so much in Mexico. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. And so I hope that we can move ahead with something that's at least as robust as NAFTA.
And again, that's part of the reason why, as we've been saying for several years now, the net immigration flow has been negative coming to the United States and positive going back into Mexico. Senator Jeff Flake, thanks so much for being with us. Greatly appreciate your time this morning. And still to come today, while President Trump constantly rails against fake news, our next guest is railing against fake change. We'll explain that ahead when we return. Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.